Video game movies.
Yeah, Leon S. Kennedy. What's the S stand for, stupid?
Oh my god, bro.
Just playing with
Video games being adapted to movies is something that needs to be studied because it seems like with every movie that comes out that's been adapted from a game, the directors have no idea what they're doing. Like, you would think it would be simple to take a game and put it onto the big screen, but a lot of directors have developed like a sort of ego superiority complex where they're like, I don't like this part of the game, so let's change it in a movie. You know what? Scrap the entire thing. Let's change the entire story of the game and make it into a movie. So you're basically making an entire original movie just with the IP of the game on it. And then they have the nerves to send in interviews and say, well, I just wanted to include my vision into the movie. Don't do that. It's just do the bare minimum and copy the game into a movie. And with so many upcoming video game movies, it is worrying how they're going to disgrace all of these and change the stories of all of these. Like, we have a Sims movie coming up, we have a Helldivers movie coming up, a Bloodborne movie, we have Elden Ring that is still in production or just wrapping up production. And so before a lot of these new releases dropped, I figured that I would catch up on a lot of the older ones that I've missed. So I watched a couple of the video game movie adaptations, and from all the ones I watched, they are awful. They're terrible. These movies sucked. So it seems fitting to start with one of the biggest and longest running franchises when it comes to video game movies, and that is Resident Evil.
No, if we're gonna die, then we should get to choose when it happens.
Because now we're kind of like on the third reboot of the film where we try a whole new idea with a new original character and a whole different type of timeline. And don't get me wrong, I love Resident Evil, and the new Zach Cregger film looks great, but why can't we just make original zombie movies nowadays without calling it Resident Evil? Like, it could still be a good zombie movie without a few Easter eggs. And it's painful seeing a lot of the directors sit back and try to beg fans to accept this movie as Resident Evil. They're just sitting there, they're like, guys, please, there's a herb in the background, there's a shotgun on a wall, and shotgun shells in a drawer. This is Resident Evil. You gotta believe me. The residents, they're evil. Please, you gotta accept this movie. So in 2002, Screen Gems released what would start this franchise of Resident Evil, starring Mila Jovovich, I believe that's how you say her name, who I absolutely loved in all these movies, even if they all sucked. I just remember growing up with a lot of the original Resident Evil movies and just seeing all the trailers and being excited to see them, since all of them were pretty much in like 3D. And who doesn't like a really good zombie movie with some cool action sequences, a lot of cool fighting scenes? And a lot of us were also just curious how the games would play into the movies. So the story of Resident Evil follows a woman named Alice who wakes up with amnesia with some sort of tie to the Umbrella Corporation that she ends up fighting. And each movie kind of started with Alice waking up not knowing where she was, and we would get different scenarios with each movie starring Alice, who would later figure out that she was a clone created by the Umbrella Corporation that instead went rogue and was fighting them. We have a movie where she finds out that she was a clone created by them. We have one where she meets Claire, Chris, Leon. We have a movie where her boyfriend gets injected with the T virus and turns into Nemesis or Titan. Yeah, I don't know. It was a good movie, but I don't know what's going on with the plot here or how this ties to the game. I don't know, but these were movies. Now, a lot of these movies, they didn't do awful. A lot of these movies made like over, I would say 40 million gross worldwide, which is really great. But none of these were based off the video game, which is why a lot of people didn't like them. And a lot of these had terrible CGI and plots that were just everywhere. But like I said, they were still good movies. And I just remember a lot of the scenes in the movie being super cool. Like one of them in Retribution where Alice fights an entire hallway of zombies and she kind of like uses an empty magazine clip to kill a zombie. Like, how isn't that cool? Like, that's an awesome fighting scene. Now, after these movies, Capcom kind of went dark for a while until 2021, where they announced their new Resident Evil movie called Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. And this is actually labeled, out of all video game movies, this is labeled one of the most faithful adaptations of all video game movies. And after watching it, I 100% agree. This is one of the most faithful adaptations. They have a lot of the set looking just like the video games. A lot of the creatures look just like the video game. We have a lot of scenes that come straight out the video game, like a scene of Claire riding in a truck with the trucker, the truck crashing into the RPD department and blocking the exit. A lot of the scenes were actually like one for one, like reflecting the game. But that doesn't mean the plot or any of the characters in this movie or the cast members were good or the movie was good. Because for the plot, they decided to mash together the first and second game, and that's where the whole movie kind of just falls apart. So this first plot that we're following is Claire returning to her hometown in Raccoon City to warn her brother Chris of Umbrella Corporation poisoning the town. Of course, Chris doesn't listen, and he's working for the RPD, so he gets a call to go to Spencer's mansion to look for a lost Bravo team. Then we have Leon, who's beginning his first day on the RPD. At one point, the movie all mashes the plots together for all of them to escape before a bomb drops on the city and destroys the whole town of Raccoon City. So yeah, there's a lot going on here actually. And the cast is a mess. The cast was not casted correctly. I don't know who was in charge of casting and costume design, but at the bare minimum, if you're not going to cast the people to look like the game characters, at least have the costume designer put on some wigs, because this right here, this person, this is not Claire. Where's her ponytail at? Yes, she has the red jacket. Where's the ponytail? Leon. Don't even get me started on Leon, because who casted this guy as Leon? This is actually the guy from Victorious. I forgot his name. It's been so long. But he plays on Victorious, and they casted him as Leon. He looks nothing like Leon. They couldn't dye his hair blonde. They couldn't get another guy with blonde hair, natural blonde hair, to play Leon. I feel like that's not that hard. And then there's Jill, who, phenomenal actress, but this isn't Jill. And then Weskers, this isn't Weskers either. Not only do the characters not look like the original game characters, but they also didn't act like it. Like Leon in a movie is portrayed as this wimpy rookie who doesn't know what he's doing and gets bullied the whole movie.
Of his death in what the fuck are you doing here, Leon?
You said everyone into the briefing room, so here I am.
I didn't mean you, you moron. Not you, Leon, everyone else. What if someone wanders in and there's no one behind the front desk, an old lady's looking for her cat or something?
Yeah, you're
Jesus
right.
Christ, get back there, man, and get a haircut, you goddamn hippie.
Like, everyone's clowning on Leon the whole movie. He doesn't know how to use a gun. He gets beat up a lot. Claire saves him throughout the movie. This isn't Leon, because if you actually played the Resident Evil games, you would know that Leon is jumping on giants and just backflipping in the most dramatic way to avoid chainsaws. And then there's Weskers, whose character in the game is supposed to be super monotone and villainous. He really doesn't care about anybody except for getting his way and money and whatever type of benefit he can get out of his situation. And so in the movie, they actually have the same kind of ending that would be in the game, where Weskers is stealing the vials for the Umbrella Corporation from Professor Birkins. But he's stealing the vials, and of course, just like the game, Weskers gets shot and is allegedly dead. But we all know that doesn't happen. Weskers is supposed to go on and inject himself with one of the T-viruses, which saves him. But in a game, he's like, he just dies. Like, he doesn't care, he just dies. In a movie, they make it to where he's apologizing to the entire crew.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have pulled the trigger, kid.
Wesker!
That's not Wesker's character. Weskers would not care. Weskers would actually have died laughing at all of them. Like, he would not have cared. There's just a lot of obvious changes they could have did to the characters to make them seem more like the game characters, but I guess the person just really hated Leon in this movie. Like, they did not like the person at all. There's also a lot of plot holes in this movie. Like, they added a new storyline of Claire and Chris have been raised at Raccoon City's orphanage. And so when Claire returns, she ends up meeting an old friend of hers that she would see around the orphanage, who's kind of like one of the kids being experimented on there. And so at the end of the movie, Claire gets kind of rescued by her because she shows them a secret passageway in the orphanage that will lead them to the like secret Umbrella Corporation lab underneath. And so a nuke is being dropped on the city, right? At 6 a.m. Everyone's aware of this. The city's about to blow up. Claire leaves this person who saves her behind and called her friend. This little girl called her friend and she left her behind. And the bomb drops on the city and blows them up. What the heck, Claire? Like, you couldn't have at least warned her or took her with you? And we just forget about her at the end. There's also Leon, who supposedly doesn't know how to use a weapon since he is a rookie. And then at the end of the movie, he somehow finds an RPG to shoot Dr. Bergens and blow him up, which is like the most Resident Evil thing to happen. Like, everyone who plays Resident Evil knows you find like an RPG in a toilet. Like, you find an RPG in a trash can. But it still didn't make sense in the movie how this would work. But once again, I'll give this film props for actually being like it stated, one of the most faithful adaptations of Resident Evil. It's had followed the game, pretty much tweaked a few things, but that didn't make it great because some things actually work better as a game than a movie. The next adaptation I want to talk about is Until Dawn, which would have worked much better as an original movie than just slapping the IP of Until Dawn onto it. So the video game of Until Dawn follows a group of friends kind of having a reunion at a mountain retreat who are invited by their friend Josh. So Josh actually lost two of his sisters a couple years or whatever ago due to the same friend group playing a prank that caused him to run out of the house and fall off the mountain and die. And so Josh invites him back, basically saying like, bygones are bygones and let's all have a good time. But this actually isn't the case because he ends up dressing up as a killer that's chasing their friends and trying to murder them. But it turns out he's just doing this to get back at them and to scare them, with basically trying to get back at them and scare them. He didn't really actually want to cause them legitimate harm. He just was actually trying to scare them really badly. However, it turns out on the same mountain, the land is kind of cursed. So if you die on that mountain land, you will actually come back as something called a Wendigo. And so his two sisters who died come back as Wendigos, end up chasing everybody and trying to kill them. So there actually is like harm that's they're actually being hunted by something, even if it isn't a serial killer. And actually was a really good game. It was a 10 out of 10 amazing game. Then Sony decided they were going to make a movie about a group of friends who go to a house and get trapped inside, stuck in a time loop. And the only way to escape the time loop is to survive until dawn. Where's the original story? Like, the movie did everything. Like I said, it's a good original movie. It did interesting things in its own way, but why couldn't they name it anything else? The story is nothing like Until Dawn, and I don't understand why they couldn't just make a movie based off the game, considering they use real actors in the game. Like, all you have to do is hire everybody back to play in a movie. And the original story would have been much better than the movies. But even with the backlash, this movie did surprisingly well. The story follows a girl named Clover who is searching for her missing sister and ends up leading her to the house. Once they step inside, an hourglass flips and they kind of get stuck in a time loop where each night they face like different dangers, and one by one they each get killed off, and then they restart the night over again facing a new danger. So the kind of like plot twist in this is that like all of them are trying to survive until dawn. However, if one of them dies, they basically are like, well, we can't survive until dawn and just let this person stay dead. We have to all die and then restart and all try to survive again. And that's basically the whole plot of the movie. They do throw in a few Easter eggs, like the killer who was in the game, who was playing in the game by the friend Josh. They put him in the movie as one of the killers in the nights, which doesn't make sense seeing as he wasn't actually trying to cause his friends harm in the game. So why is he actually killing people in the movie? I'm not getting that part. They also just add random weird stuff like a witch across the street and a cursed hut. Who's this lady? What does she have to do with this? Next movie we're talking about, Return to Silent Hill. Why are we returning to anything? I think the success of the Resident Evil 2 game by Bluebird got to everybody's head because they then thought, hey, this is a fantastic story. Why not turn it to a movie? Which is a bold move considering Silent Hill fans, if there's anything to know about them, you do not mess with Silent Hill fans. Silent Hill fans are very picky. They're not someone to mess with. You should not mess with their original stories, their original games, their original characters. And this movie got like one of the lowest Rotten Tomato scores in a while. I think it's actually like one of the top 10 worst movies of all time, or game adaptations of all time. And it's described as a boring CGI slot fest, which after watching, I agree. So for those of you unfamiliar with Silent Hill is a fictional town shrouded in kind of like fog. And once you enter Silent Hill, you can't leave. And in the town, you meet like different monsters, you meet different creatures, you meet different people. And so, thing about Silent Hill is all the creatures and people are kind of reflective of your grief and trauma and fears. So there's a lot of like symbolism between everything that happens in Silent Hill. So the game of Silent Hill 2 is about a man named James who returns to Silent Hill searching for his wife Mary, but he encounters different creatures here. He encounters different people, including a woman named Maria who helps him try to search for his wife. And so the whole time he's there, it turns out that all the creatures he's facing is literally him fighting his demons. And then there's also the fact that his wife has been dead the entire time and he hasn't come to terms with it, which is why Silent Hill is kind of like playing on his fears and grief. And this is surprisingly a very cozy psychological horror game. Then we have the movie that says, once again, screw the original plot. I'm gonna do my own thing and put my own spin into the story. And it's such a slap in the face to Silent Hill fans. I'm not even that big of a Silent Hill fan, but I feel like this was such a slap in the face to the original fans. The whole idea of Silent Hill is coming to terms with your grief and trauma. And so in the game, they give you three options in the game for you as James to come to terms with losing Mary, live in a delusion of Silent Hill with Maria, or to take the easy way out. Those are the three options of Silent Hill. In the movie, they decide, we're going to make it so James goes back in time, meets Mary again before she goes into Silent Hill, and then they never go to the town to begin with. That's not how this works. They also did reveal that James is Pyramid Head by showing under the mask like 50 different times, as if we couldn't figure that all out. And there's the terrible CGI of the movie that you really can't look past. Like, I can't believe CGI is something that's still heavily relied on, considering the original like Silent Hill movie actually used like a lot of real people to play the parts, like spending money on practical effects, real people in costumes instead of doing like terrible CGI. Like, you're now making a whole new movie of Silent Hill of James just on a giant green screen. That's the entire movie. Don't get me started on Silent Hill 3D Revelations or Revelations 3D. Do not get me started on that movie. That movie is horrible too. Slenderman. I hope you're all proud of me when I say this, but I almost fell asleep when watching this and I didn't. You should be proud of me because this movie was boring. This was an actual snoozer. Like, I've never been so bored when watching a movie, especially with the color grading of this, which is kind of like a blue, light gray blue filter on the film. It really was a just boring, dreary movie to fall asleep to. So I don't know if anyone really remembers Slenderman or grew up like around the time to be old enough now to know who Slenderman was. But basically, Slenderman was a part of something called Creepypasta, which was like an online kind of like Reddit group, which put short online horror stories. And the whole idea behind like Creepypasta was that these stories were supposedly real and people post like real events of this stuff happening. And this particular character actually blew up enough to where they made a movie or a game, and then they made the game into a movie. And so the whole idea behind Slenderman is that he's a tall man with no face who lives in a wood, and he kidnaps kids. And that's it. That's his whole story. And in the game, in order to defeat Slenderman, you had to collect all the drawings from the kids that he kidnapped that were attached to trees. And as you did this, he would progressively get more aggressive. And the whole thing was there's audio cues that would signal he was near you. And then you couldn't look at him or he would kill you. And then the last page that you collected from the tree will actually have a gun and you would shoot him. And that was Slenderman. And it sounds dumb now talking about it, but this is what we grew up years ago on. In 2018, they actually made a movie based off of Slenderman. And the story followed 4 girls who accidentally summoned Slenderman, and he starts picking them off one by one. And this movie sucked, unfortunately. And it's sad because they chose an awesome cast who had decent acting and really carried the movie with their acting, but the movie sucked. So in the movie, Haley is one of the friends in the group, and she makes her friends all watch a video that summons Slenderman. And so one of their friends named Katie actually goes missing a week later while on a field trip from her school to a cemetery. Don't ask me why any school is taking a field trip to a cemetery. Like, there has to be better places, more interesting places to go to as a school trip. But I guess not, because the school's teacher's just like, hey guys, there's a grave right there. hey, look, I buried my dog here. Who wants to see a corpse? So after Katie goes missing, the friend group begins seeing Slenderman, who was done in terrible CGI. And this movie was not scary at all because the CGI was so horrible. And then one by one, they all start going missing until the remaining 3 survivors, Vern, Haley, and Haley's sister, Lizzie, figure out within literally the last 20 minutes of the movie, there's no stopping Slenderman. Unless one of them sacrificed themselves to him. Which also doesn't make any sense because since you're all marked to be taken by him, why would one of you sacrificing yourself early stop him? But I guess it does because when it's the last 2 survivors, Haley and her sister, Haley goes in the woods, offers herself to Slenderman, and he turns her into a tree. Why does she turn into a tree? I have no idea, but he takes her as a sacrifice and it saves her sister Lizzie from being taken. Then at the end of the movie, Lizzie goes on as like a survivor of Slenderman, spreading awareness to everybody, like telling them, hey, be careful what you post online because you never know what can happen. And this felt like a terrible Darman lesson. So you see, guys, you should be careful telling those Slender guy stories because if you do, you're going to turn into a tree. And as you can see, we got a little teeny bit off plot, but that's a fortunate thing about this movie. I feel like they were scared to explore more of Slenderman's story and explain more to us. Any movie like this that really just is the whole movie of them trying to figure out how to stop something and they never figure out how, and it's basically like, hey, you're all doomed. It's really boring. They could have at least explained Slenderman's origin story. They could have explained how to stop him. They could have told more about why Haley turns into a tree, but they did none of that, and this movie did terrible, and that was the final coffin in Slenderman, so that's why you don't hear about him nowadays, and I probably sound crazy talking about it because none of you have no idea what I'm talking about. All right, the Borderlands movie. Now we're in dangerous territory. So Borderlands is a popular video game that's rated M17, right? They decided to turn this into a PG-13 movie directed by Eli Roth. For those of you who don't know who Eli Roth is, he made Hostile, Thanksgiving. He's making a new movie called Ice Cream Man, which looks disgusting. And he makes a lot of other non-kid friendly movies that are super violent. So why is Eli Roth producing a non-PG-13 movie or a PG-13 movie? Why is Eli Roth producing that? But the movie's ratings is the least of our problems because they changed the entire story of the game and added a whole new original story that I think the director claimed was supposed to be in an alternate cinematic universe. Come on now. That doesn't make sense. Why not stick to the original story, which would have been interesting enough? So the game of Borderlands is based in like a post-apocalyptic world. There's 4 people that are looking for something called the Vault, and they are titled themselves Vault Hunters. And this Vault is said to have like treasures or to unlock like powers and have great things inside of it. So there's 4 people looking for this. And one of the main characters is named Lilith, who has a power called phase walking, and she is a siren. So the whole game is about this group looking for the Vault, and then they finally discover the Vault, but instead of having treasures inside, there's actually a monster, a world-destroying monster inside of it. And yeah, that's the whole game. It's chaotic, it's fun, it's M17, it's unhinged. There's lots of chaos, lots of violence. It's nonsense fun. And so meanwhile, the movie decided to go completely off script here and change everything about the game. In fact, none of the character stories are based off the game in this movie. So in the movie, Lilith is a bounty hunter, which we're already stopping here because in the game, there's no bounty hunters. There's Vault hunters. And the movie knows that she was supposed to be a Vault hunter because they remind us in the movie like 500 different times that Lilith is not a Vault hunter. It's like they're rubbing it in our faces. Lilith also doesn't know that she has powers until the very end of the movie. And instead of just looking for the Vault, her origin story being her looking for the Vault, she's actually looking for somebody named Tina, who is the daughter of a large corporation. And in the movie, Tina is said to be the key to opening a Vault. And Tina in this movie, if you have played the game, you will know Tina is a very like erratic, spontaneous character, unhinged. Her acting seems very natural in the game, but in the movie, it feels like the whole cast is kind of just cosplaying. Like, we just put wigs on different people and they're cosplaying the character from the game. None of the acting felt natural, especially Tina's. Respecting all the actors and everyone acting in this movie, but the acting felt terrible. It felt like cosplay. And Tina was making me mad in this movie. Like, you're not doing a good job acting. Changing the conclusion of this movie, they decided that Lilith is the key to opening the vault. So she opens a vault, and instead of the world-destroying monster being the only thing in there, there's supposedly all these amazing treasures, and then no world-destroying monster. And we get a Cinderella ending where Lilith just flies off into the sky. And that's the movie. Why couldn't we stick to the original story and make this an R-rated movie to please the fans? I think actually making a movie PG-13 is something a lot of directors do to save their movie from being limited to audiences. They want to kind of have everyone watch it. And so making it R-rated kind of limits it to a lot of younger people to watching it. But who cares? Like, if you're going to make a movie based off the game, you have to go all the way. Especially if you get Eli Roth to direct your movie. Eli Roth, he's crazy. So you get the opportunity to make an R-rated film with him, you should have just went with it. Yeah, this is why this movie got a 0, because the story is nothing like the game. The cast sucks, and all the dialogue is cringeworthy. None of it was really funny, except for Jack Black, who plays Claptrap. I would say Claptrap's character was the most, like, closest we'll get to the game, because he's the most spontaneous one in this movie, and he actually cusses a lot, which is surprising why this movie still got rated PG-13 with a lot of the cussing Jack Black did. Like, they could have just went and committed all the way. Lesson of the day, stick with the source material. Why are we going off the source material? You would think by now we have learned our lesson with video game movie adaptations to sticking to the source material. Seeing as how many movies in the past have failed, I feel like we have more failures than successes, and the most successful stuff is actually from shows like Last of Us and Fallout. I guess not. We'll never learn our lesson, so I'm scared for the future of a lot of these movies. But yeah, that will wrap up my video game adaptation kind of marathon, I guess. I did have a little bit of fun watching these, even if they did suck. It did give me something to laugh at, and I would definitely love to do this again. So if you enjoyed this video, comment down the next movie I should watch, and also your thoughts, because I'm worried how good or bad these are going to be. I would definitely check out any adaptations that you guys give me. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.